Hello and welcome to everybody on my YouTube channel Cloud Fitness. So today's video is part 3 of Azure Synapse Analytics series. So in part 2 we have actually created a Apache Spark pool which I will be using in this particular video. I'll be creating a very basic notebook and I'll try to orchestrate that notebook, and I will tell you the different parameters, the different diagnostic settings which you can see, and different levels of log that you can go ahead and see when you execute that particular notebook. So in case you have not watched part 1 and part 2 of this series, I recommend watching those two parts. So let's move ahead and go to the Azure portal. So here I am in the Azure portal, and this is the Synapse workspace that I have created, Synapse Bhavna. And now let's go and open the Synapse Studio. But before we open Azure Synapse Studio, let me show you the Spark pool that we created in my part 2 of this video. So this is Apache Spark 05. So this is the Apache Spark pool that we have created. Now let's go to Azure Synapse Studio and try to build a notebook over there and execute it using Apache Spark pool that we created. So here is the UI portal. Now I'll go to the left section. I'll quickly zoom it so that it is easier for you to see. So if I go to the left hand side, I have explained all these the icons in detail. So let's go and do the develop tab over here, the third one, which looks like a notebook as well. So here you can see you have this add new resource option. If you click on this plus symbol, you can actually add a notebook as well here, right? In the similar way, what I have done is I have added a notebook already so that it takes less time while explaining. And if I go and click on this particular notebook, you will be able to see the notebook that I have created. So guys, this is the notebook that's created. I'll zoom in a bit. Now you can see on the top that you have this attached to Apache Spark Pool 04, right, and Apache Spark 05. So we have created Apache Spark 05 in our previous session, and all these properties of run, all, publish, outline, the language that you choose from, everything I've explained in the part 1 of the series. So do go ahead and check that. Now if you go to the very right hand side, you see this particular option, configure session. So this configure session also I have explained in the part 1. So these are basically the configurations of the Apache Spark pool that I have attached my existing notebook to. So this is the Spark pool that we created, and I have attached my notebook to this particular Apache Spark pool, and you can see the status here. It says that the spool has not started yet, right? And it also shows the configurations, how many cores are available, what is the memory, how many number of nodes. It is auto scalable. That is why it has mentioned 3 to 10 nodes. And you can actually if you go down a bit, I'll go down here. You can actually see the session timeout as well. So for any option that you have any doubt on, you can directly go and click on this icon, and that will actually show you the use of that particular option. And I have explained all these in detail in the part 1 of the video as well, right? And basically by default this is 30 minutes. So when I say 30 minutes, so this is the session time. So in case your session is inactive for 30 minutes, it will actually close the session. Now if you look at the notebook here, the very first cell, so the very basic nature of Spark is how it processes your data, right? It divides your data into set of parallel tasks between different executors, and it processes your data, right? So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to create a data frame. So I have a list of columns, flower and their color, and as a data I'm trying to input the flower name and the color. So at first I'm trying to create an RDD, because RDDs and data frames are the basic data types of Spark, which actually I'm trying to create an RDD which will actually parallelize your data. So first I'm trying to create an RDD, then I'm trying to create a data frame out of that RDD. I'll quickly zoom in, and then I'm just trying to parallelize the schema. Now let's go ahead and run this. So on the left hand side there's an option for run cell. You can run that, or you can also click shift enter, just like your traditional notebooks. In the same way, if you run it, you can actually see right now this is running. So what is happening in the background is it is going and it is attaching to the Spark pool that I have created, and it is trying to fetch the executors. It is trying to get the nodes available. So it is starting the session actually. Now if I'll zoom in and if I go to the settings here, now you can see here that the status has become as starting. So now since my Apache Spark pool is actually starting, it is mentioning the status here has actually changed as well. So just wanted to show you this, and since I'm running it for the first time, because it was not in an active state, it might take some time to start the session as well. So till the time my Apache Spark pool is getting started, like I'll go ahead and I'll explain the notebook, what I'm trying to achieve through this notebook. So now I have attached this to Apache Spark 05, which was the pool that we created last time. So this is a data frame that I'm trying to create. Once this gets created, I am actually trying to see how many number of partitions are getting created, because see, the data that I have created, that has only 3 rows, but still I would like to see how many number of partitions are getting created with only 3 rows. And then in the next command, I am trying to see how my data is distributed within these partitions using this particular command. Now regarding partitioning, regarding coalesce, I have already created a video in the Databricks and Apache Spark playlist. You can go ahead and check that. And after I have seen how the data is distributed within the partition, I am actually trying to repartition my data. So let's say my data has 5 partition. I'm trying to repartition it to 3. That way, then again, I'm trying to see the distribution of data after repartitioning. Also, there is one more optimization technique. Basically, if you know about Spark, it has an optimization technique of caching the data frame. So I'm just trying to cache the data frame here. Post that, so basically I have cached the data frame 1. So in data frame 1, the partitioning I have not done on my own. So this is the very first data frame is by default, it is by default the partitioning has been created by Spark in data frame 1, and that I have cached. Now data frame 2 is what I have created after repartitioning it, right? So for data frame 2, I am actually persisting it. I am caching it basically, but I am changing the storage level to disk. So why I am doing this is because I will actually show you how you can actually check how your data frame has been cached and how much amount of data has been cached. You can actually visualize it into Spark UI, which we will actually see in some time. And probably whatever commands I have run on the top, they are all they are not actually executing anything, right? These are not executing anything. So Spark is a lazy evaluation. So until you execute any action on whatever you have created, it doesn't run basically, right? So it is just to create an action. I'm just randomly doing a count on the data frame. So now let's go up, and looks like that our Spark session, our Spark pool is ready. It shows here, you can see even if you hover on it, you can actually see your session will expire in 29 minutes. So 30 minutes is the default, and you have actually seen that as well. On the left hand side, the setting option that I have actually shown you, there you have mentioned 30 minutes, that my session will actually expire in 30 minutes. And now let's go up and see whether my cell ran or not. So now you can see this is the cell that I executed, and this is how my schema looks like, because I'm printing my schema. Flower and color both are string for the demo purpose. Now let's go ahead and run the second command, second cell, and see how many number of partitions are there. Now you ran this command, the number of partition is 16, if you can see here, right? I'll zoom it a bit. Okay, so number of partitions are 16. Now can you understand why do we have number of partitions as 16? Because we are having only 3 records. Do we need 16 partitions? Why do we have these 16 partitions, right? And now from where does the 16 comes into picture? So this 16 comes into picture from your codes. So you can see that executor are assigned codes, right? So you have two executors available here and you have 16 cores assigned to them, right? So because of the parallelism, because of the RDDs that you have created, it has actually created 16 partitions out of your data. Right, now let's go and see how your data is distributed. I'm going to run this cell, how your data is distributed within this partition. Now if you see the distribution of your data, which has 2 executors and 16 cores, you can see that the first five partitions are empty, they does not have any record. Then the sixth one has a row, because in total we have 3 rows, right? So you can see how it is partitioned. The first 5 does not have any data inside, then sixth one has a row, and then again the next 4 does not have any data, then the next one has 1 row. So this is how your data has been partitioned, right? Now let's try to repartition our data. I don't want 16 partitions, I want only 3 partitions, and this is where your repartitioning comes into picture. You could have done coalesce as well here. Coalesce is also used to decrease the number of partitions. The difference I have already explained in my previous video related to Spark. Now I have executed this. Now you can see that the data frame 2 has been created, which has which is repartitioned with 3 partitions. Now let's go ahead and run the other cell, which will actually show me the distribution of data within those partitions. So now if you see the distribution of data, it has 1, and then it has 2 records here, and then it has 0 records in the third partition. So this is how I wanted to show you, where you can actually go ahead and see the partition and you can repartition it as per your own requirement. Now let's try to cache it. So cache is basically an optimization technique, which this will basically cache in memory. So by default, your Spark will do most of the optimization techniques, most of the execution in the memory only. So this cache is also by default in the memory. So it stores your data frame in the memory. Now if you run now I'll run this particular cell, which will actually persist my data frame 2, which has a repartitioning of 3 in disk, and I will actually show you as well how it's been done. And then let's just, for the sake of running, I'll just run the count command. And so now actually I have run everything cell by cell. We do have an option of running all the commands at once on the top. So now let's do run all. So the moment you do a run all the cells will be executed in a sequence, and we will actually now go and monitor the execution of this particular notebook. Now you can see, I'll zoom it here as well. So view in monitoring, you have an option of view in monitoring and open in Spark UI. So you have these two options where you can actually go ahead and see how your data is being executed, and everything about the execution. So now let's go and just click on view in monitoring. So this monitoring is nothing but on the left hand side you have this monitor option. So you can navigate to this monitoring directly from this left hand side as well. So this is basically, it actually shows you your the job which you have run, each and everything in detail. It shows about your job. Now if you go on to the bottom side, you have all your logs available here. If you click on diagnostic, you can actually see the diagnostics as well related to your job. Let's refresh this. So basically when your task is done, you will be able to see the diagnostics here, so where you can actually click and see if there are any failed jobs, if there is any kind of data skewness, if one partition has a lot of data and the other does not have, and the time, if there is any time skew as well, if one partition is taking long, in that case as well you will be able to see the details here. Now when you talk about the executor utilization, if I click here, it says 1% utilization efficiency, which is really bad. So let's go and click here and see what is the actual issue. So now when you see here, it actually takes you to the Spark UI only. So in the beginning I showed you that there are two ways where you can diagnose it. It can be like you can click on Spark UI option, or you can view in monitoring. Now again it has actually taken you to the Spark UI page. Now it says 1% utilization efficiency. Why? Because if you can see here, I was executing all the notebooks step by step. I was explaining and then running, explaining and then running, one cell at a time, right? And by that time in between, you can see at 5:46 p.m. and 5:48 p.m. it was actually doing nothing. My executor was not executing because I did not execute anything inside my notebook, right? And my executor only ran for one cell, and then at 5:48 p.m. it ran for another cell. Then again for the next 2 minutes it was doing nothing. It was idle. So that is the reason it actually states that the execution efficiency is 1.39%. Now when I executed all the cells at once this particular time, then you can see that it was actually getting used, right? So that is the reason it has 1% of efficiency here. Now since we are already on this Spark UI page, let's see about the time skewness. So we did not have any time skewness, so that is why you have everything empty over here. If you have any kind of time skews, that will be actually displayed here. It will actually show you execution time and how much data was read in how many seconds. So it will actually show you a graph here if there is any kind of discrepancy. Now you can also visualize the data skewness in the same way on this is the option where you can actually choose from all the three options here. So in our case there was no data skewness, so that is why it's empty right now. Let's go back to the portal, and if you want to see anything related to your Apache Spark pools, you can just go and click here Apache Spark pools, and you can actually see that I have two pools associated, and the one which I have used is Apache Spark 05. So you can see all the details related to your Spark pools, how many vcores are allocated to it, how much memory is allocated to your Spark pools. If you go inside that particular Spark pool, you can actually see how many applications are running on it, what is the current allocation for that particular Spark pools, and what was the runtime history for in the last 24 hours. So you can see here, when I talk about the history in the last 24 hours, you can see here, let me zoom it a bit. So you can see a dot here, right? So basically I ran it on 12th June at 5 p.m., right? So this is the only time when this particular when this particular pool ran, actually when this particular pool was active, and currently there are no applications which is running on it. So it is showing that it is showing blank here because currently there is nothing that is running. I have actually stopped the pool already. Now active applications and ended applications. So now this I canceled the operation, so that is why it is showing you here that cancel. So anything related to your Apache Spark pool, you can come here and you can see. So now let's go back to your Apache Spark applications, and this is the application names. Let's click on that. So we are inside monitor right now, and let's click on the Spark history server. So the Spark history server will basically take you to this particular page, which is a Spark UI page. You can actually go ahead and download download the log here as well. Now let's go and click on this application ID. This was the application which is actually stopped right now. So you can see all the details related to the event here. So this is the time when actually your driver was added, and when executor was added, then the first executor when it was added, and there was no executor removed, right? Because for removed it shows in basically red color. So you have everything in blue color. So it got succeeded, and the executors they were added. So all these event wise you can go ahead and see that, and in case you want to go ahead and check the tasks, in that case as well, you have all the details over here with your job IDs, your description, when your job was submitted, what was the duration. And in similar way, if you go on and click on to the stages option, you have all your stages here, how many stages were present, and whether there was any shuffle between the partitions, was there any shuffle during the read or the write operations. Everything is mentioned in this completed stages. If you go and click on the storage option, right now it's empty because actually I've stopped my job. So once we'll execute the job, then you will be able to see the storage as well, because we have cached one data frame in the memory, and when we have cached one data frame on the disk. So that kind of detail you can actually go and see in the storage and regarding the environment, and you have this. And in previous video, in my part 2 of this series, I actually mentioned that Spark has over 200 properties, right, which you can actually manage, or which which you can actually change. So these are these 200 properties. These are around 200 properties which you can see here, and you can change these properties as per your requirement. Now when you go and click on executor, it will show you your executor level details basically. So this is the main thing to note here is the task time, which is basically the garbage collection time over here. Your shuffle read, your shuffle write time, your all kinds of logs, your memory, your heap memory, everything is mentioned here basically. If you go on and click on this graphs at the top, you will be actually able to see the graph as well. So this graph basically is for the job that you have run. Now the diagnostics is kind of similar to what we have discussed in the beginning. So let's go back to the Azure Synapse URL. So now basically I will try to schedule the notebook that is created. So this was a very basic notebooks. I'll try to schedule it. I'll try to orchestrate it. Now for that, on the left hand side there is an option of integrate. Let's click on that particular option. So when you click on that option, you will see that you have your pipelines over here. You can click on this plus icon over here, and you have your pipelines, your copy data tool. So I have already created one pipeline. You can create another. It's almost same thing. If you click on these activities, so this interface is exactly similar to the Azure Data Factory. If you know Data Factory, it is all similar to the Data Factory, right? And you can see here, this is the notebook option. You can come and drag this particular option here, and then you can actually I'll just now in the settings option, you can actually provide a notebook which you want to run. So I already have one notebook, so that is why in the drop down it is showing me one notebook, right? And in case you have any parameters, you can mention them here. Right now we do not have any parameters. And when you talk about these user properties, these user property is nothing but your any kind of tags that you want to add. So in case you have multiple pipelines running, right now see we have only one pipeline, but in case you have more than one pipeline, it will be easier for you to understand that which pipeline correspond to what activity, right? If you have any kind of tags. So just for the sake of an example, I have added an environment tag where I have added a product value. Like you can add anything. Okay, so I'll quickly delete this notebook because I already have this one ready. Now main thing to note here is this is the Synapse notebook. This notebook is created inside Synapse, right? In case you have a notebook inside Databricks, then you have to drag and drop this particular option which is inside the Databricks tag, right? And then you have to basically provide the linked service to your Databricks. So when I say linked service is nothing, just a connection to your data lake. Now your Synapse has to connect to your Databricks. For that, the connection string is called the link service. So you will provide the link service, and after you provide the link service, you can actually give your notebook path. You will actually see the notebooks, and you can select the notebooks you want to basically execute. So in the similar way, I'm just doing a publish here. Publish is nothing, it is just saving. So I'm just trying to save this. And when you talk about activities, we have multiple activities. You want to copy the data, you want to use any kind of Azure function, you want to use your your Databricks notebooks, or you want to have any kind of a wait activity. Let's say before executing this notebook, if I want to have a wait, I want to wait for just 1 minute, let's say, or 1 second. I can, add this activity, and in the settings I can mention the wait time. So these are the few things that we can do. And we will slowly and steadily in the upcoming sessions, I will increase the complexities of the workflow. I will try to include the ETL part as well here. So this was just a very basic flow which I'm trying to create for now. So these are different activities. So your webhook activities basically use if you want to send any kind of emails, and there are a lot of other stuff that you can do with the webhook in case you want to delete anything. So you have this delete activity. So this is almost similar to your data factory. I will not go in much detail in this particular video because we will be using everything in our upcoming sessions. So now basically you have your pipeline created, and in case you want to run it, you have your, just like data factory, you can add a trigger here. So this, I might want to run this notebook only when a certain event happens, right? Maybe like when a file arrives in my data lake. In that case I want to run this particular notebook. So in that case you can add a trigger. So when I say add a trigger, you can go ahead and click here a new, and you can type the name of your trigger. You can choose the type of trigger that you want to set, and for example this is a scheduled trigger. So when I say scheduled trigger, I have to mention the date and time when I want to run it, and that is basically a scheduled trigger. Now if I want to have so for example custom event trigger, so it is in preview, so I should not talk about this. So in case of any event, you can run this particular pipeline. Event, when I say event, it might be anything like addition of a file to your blob storage or to your data lake. Now we can have a tumbling window trigger. So when I say tumbling window trigger, it is basically in a particular window. In a particular window, your pipeline would run. So tumbling window is basically also used to load your historical data as well. So now, for now, I'm not scheduling it. We will definitely schedule our pipelines in our upcoming sessions. Now, without a trigger, you can simply click on trigger now. So I'll be clicking on trigger now for now, and let's say OK. And now you can see actually my pipeline is running. On the left, on the right hand side top, you can see running pipeline 1, right? And right now my pipeline is running, but now if I want to go and monitor it, I can go onto the left hand side, click on this monitor where I can visualize everything about the pipeline, and you can see here regarding Apache Spark application. Now the status, this one was stopped. Now since I have run this, right, it is submitting. So now basically I have an application running on that Apache Spark pool. So let's click on Apache Spark pools and see. We have this Apache Spark pool 05. So basically this Apache Spark pool is starting. So once it is started, we can come back here and check the allocated memory and the vCores. Also, let's go and see pipeline runs, because we have run a pipeline, right? So let's go and see pipeline runs. So this is the pipeline one. It is in progress. So why it is in progress? Because my Apache Spark pool has stopped. So it is just running from start. So that this is the start time. You can see the run time, and you can see it is manually triggered. So when I say manually trigger, we do not have a trigger, event trigger, or we do not have a scheduled trigger set on it, right? And in case any error comes, you can see the error over here, and this is the run ID. And let's go and click inside this pipeline one. You can just click here and you'll be able to go inside the pipeline. So when I say you can go inside the pipeline, you can see the details related to your activity. So since it is a basic activity, you will not have too much to see, but yeah, it's running right now. Once it is completed, you can actually see your input, your output, the data that is processed, everything you can see over here. So right now it is in progress. And you remember, like in the beginning, I added user properties as well to the notebook. So that user properties will be reflected over here. So now basically my pipeline has completed. It says green tick over here. Now if I go to Apache Spark pools, which we went earlier as well. So Apache Spark 05, now this pool has actually started. It has run my notebook as well. That is why it says allocated vCores, allocated memory. It explains everything over here as well. So going back to the pipeline runs, if I again click on this pipeline, let's Yeah, now here if you go to the user properties, I click on the user properties, you can actually see your environment, prod, and or like this is the same name and the value, this is the same parameter which I've set up in my pipeline. And this is basically your input. If you hover over this particular icon, and this is your output, and if you click on this pencil symbol, let's open it. So if you click on this particular symbol, you will be actually navigated to your Spark UI, right? And to your when I say Spark UI, basically to the notebook which you have run. Now let's go back again, and let's click on this output icon and see. So this actually explains everything, every output, your, let's I should maximize it. So it also explains everything about your job, how it has executed, what is the minimum number of executors that that were being used, what is the maximum number of executors that were being used, what kind of activity was being used, all these things, what is the Spark pool name. So my notebook was attached to this particular Spark pool, so it took this particular Spark pool, right? And this is basically the whole definition of the of your activity which has happened here. So if you want to rerun it, you can just click here on rerun and you can rerun it. In case it fails, so you can rerun it from the failed activity as well. So if you click on this edit pipeline, it will actually navigate you to the Azure Data Factory portal. So this is like Data Factory where you have actually executed this notebook. So guys, this was pretty much, a very simple, and a very simple overview of how you can execute a notebook inside a Synapse. And I'll come up with the next video which will have a little more complicated, workflow of the, and then we can actually see what else we can do with Azure Synapse. So thank you so much for being till here, and do remember to like and subscribe to my channel.